Hello everyone, welcome to the second awards gala. We're going to kick off the show now, and I'm going to share my screen. Just a second. All right, I hope you can see my screen and you can hear me loud and clear. If yes, please thumbs up. Okay, thank you. All right, so welcome to the second gala event of the 2023 DevPortal Awards. It's a pleasure to be here with a talented and dynamic audience, united by a common passion for pushing the boundaries of technology and creating exceptional developer experiences. Today, we celebrate the brilliant minds and dedicated teams behind the most outstanding developer portals of the year. We are delighted and proud to have arrived to the point of the awards ceremony and super excited to present you the finalists and the winners in 5 categories and the best overall SME and Enterprise DevPortal Awards. I am Katalin Fogas and I will host the first part of this event, this time from Szeged, Hungary. In 2023, 57 developer portal teams from across many industries decided to submit their nomination. Well-known international brands and emerging SMEs joined this year's contest. Some of them are recurring contestants in new categories, and some of them are new to shine a spotlight on their work. On behalf of the entire DevPortal Awards team, let me extend a heartfelt thank you for submitting. The work that you put into crafting a portal that not only meets technical standards, but also prioritizes user-centric design and community engagement is truly inspiring. And as we eagerly anticipate the results, please know that your hard work has not gone unnoticed. Regardless of the outcome, you can take pride in the fact that your team has made a significant impact in the community and has set a benchmark for excellence. The awards wouldn't be possible without the contribution and dedication of our jury panel. This year, we had the privilege of assisting the work of 13 amazing people who put their heart and soul into the evaluation. All of them are voluntary members of the panel with extensive experience regarding API documentation and developer portals. Imagine the task at hand, 57 developer portals, that's a lot. Each a statement to the ingenuity and creativity of the teams behind them. And it's actually a challenge to evaluate, compare, and discern the nuances that make each entry unique. Yet, we were fortunate to have a group of dedicated people who willingly took on this Herculean task. And we are deeply grateful to all of you. Okay, now let's see what's on today's program. We are going to hear a presentation by 2 of my UX colleagues. They will reveal what happens when developers experience the rewarding state of deep focus and productivity, and how developer portals can actually support that. And the presenters, Monica and Nori, will highlight good practices from this year's nominee pool. Then we will ask juror Susanna Laurin about digital accessibility best practices in the light of the upcoming EU regulation. And we will reveal, of course, the finalists and winners in the remaining 5 categories. And before announcing the winners in the best overall categories, we will chat with jurors Anne Gentle, Michael Richardson, and Bob Watson. Please note that the interviews and this whole ceremony is recorded. We will publish parts of today's happening on the Pronovix blog at a later date. Once we go back to the roundtables, we will stop the recording. Last but not least, I would like to call your attention to our code of conduct. We ask follow this code of conduct your whole event. Please be friendly, welcoming, and respectful. And if you need to report an issue, please contact the team Claudia and Rebecca through the chat in Remo. Of course, all reports will be kept confidential. All right, let the fun begin. I'm calling my colleagues, Monica Mikhazi and Nora Farka, stage to talk about fostering developers' peak performance, user-centered design on developer portals. Hello, Moni. And
hey, welcome everyone.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Nora is here. Yes,
yes,
she's
hi,
here.
Everyone.
Hello. All right, so the stage is yours.
Okay, let me share my screen.
Thank you.
Hopefully you can see my screen now, and Moni, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Welcome everyone, and thank you very much for being here. So first I would like to ask something from you. I'd like you to think about the last time when you were so immersed in an activity that it made you feel somewhat disconnected from reality. Think of an example when you were so deeply engulfed in something that you forgot to take out the laundry, or you simply forgot that you haven't had a glass of water for the last 6 hours. And you can also write it in the chat if you feel like. So what does this have to do with APIs? The thing is, 9 out of 10 developers often or always feel the experience of such a deep focus in certain activities when working with APIs. They describe this as a state of their peak performance when they feel that they can deliver anything. And how can we foster this on developer portals? We will see during the presentation, but let me introduce ourselves first. My name is Monica Mikhazi. I'm a UX researcher at Pronovix, and let me introduce to you my colleague Nora Farkas. She's a UX designer, and for a living, we help build developer portals that make lives easier. We are also psychologists by education, which helps us in connecting the dots between the cognitive patterns and the design practices that foster developers' peak performance. So we were curious about what factors contribute to the peak performance of developers. That's why we conducted some user interviews to find out if they even experience this state at all. And if they do, when do they experience it, and how do they feel during or after this experience. We were also curious about how can design practices foster this peak performance. But first, let's see what the peak performance of developers look like. As one of them described, when you're in a flow, you kind of become your own bubble with your work and it just flows. In the beginning of the presentation, I described a scenario when you are so absorbed in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. You concentrate so much that time feels different. It might freeze or it just flies by. You might even forget about your basic needs like being hungry or feeling thirsty. And this is called the optimal performance or flow state, which is a theory by Mihály Csikszentmihalyi. He's a Hungarian-American psychologist. So we can get into this state of mind if there is a balanced skill and challenge ratio. It means that the activity is not too challenging that anxiety blocks us, and it's not too easy that we feel bored during the activity. We feel a sense of control over our actions, but it doesn't mean that we are fully confident. So we need some excitement, some arousal. For example, some developers stated that a strict deadline would give such an arousal that they are able to get into flow. In this state of mind, our self-concern also fades away, which means that we're not saying things to ourselves like, I'm not good enough for this, I can do this. So we are willing to step out of our comfort zone, and thus we can achieve more than we usually can. Immediate feedback is also a prerequisite of this state, which means that when users get a feedback about an action, it makes sure that they are on the right path and they can see where they are in the process, for example. So we conducted user interviews, as I mentioned, with the amazing UX team at Pronovix, and we talked with developers because we assumed, and based on former research, we saw that software development is a challenging job. And that's why developers may experience flow during their job often. Although previous studies show that developers feel a state of flow during their job, we were specifically interested in how flow and software development relates when working with APIs on developer portals. And we asked questions like, what activities do they do on developer portals? Do they experience flow during these activities? And if they do, when do they experience it? How do they feel? And we also asked about what helps and what distracts them during these activities. During the user interviews with software developers, we found that 9 out of 10 developers experience this state of mind when working with APIs. For example, when they are trying out the API, they are experimenting with it, or when they are coding or learning about the API from documentation, and they experience this even during troubleshooting. So it is the state of peak performance, and actually studies show that we are 5 times more productive compared to when we are not in flow. Like Ellen described, it is the state when I advance the most, when I do most of the work and when I can deliver anything. So in this state, we are inspired, we are creative, the brain is flushed with neurotransmitters, so we are feeling really great and we are more motivated than usual. As Steven described, it would make my whole development process more fun. Like it would help my motivation. I would be excited of it. This state is so rewarding that we seek the experience again and again. And developers also stated that they feel a sense of achievement after a flow experience. And they feel energized, they enjoy that they progress so much, that they build something that is working, that is used by the whole company, and the clients are satisfied with it. So another key factor is distractions, because they get you out of flow. There is a study where they found that developers in flow, if they're distracted, it takes 15 minutes for them to get back in flow if they can't get back in it at all. And what can be a benefit of supporting flow on developer portals? So as I mentioned earlier, 5 times faster 5 times more productivity can lead to 5 times faster delivery times. And we can also help them to solve their problems with the least friction possible. So if another thing is that they will reuse the solutions of your service if they get back in flow. And another thing is what we see from our previous interviews is that recommendation is one of the main sources where developers get inspired about which APIs to use. And if they experience flow, they feel that they are more satisfied and they would recommend the portal to other developers. In case of an internal portal, studies show that there is a higher chance that they would remain at your company. As Joanna said, the first few experiences that you can have with the API portal are probably the most impactful, because even if you can resolve those first problems, it's not like you're going to spend time keep going with that provider. So the developers whom we talk with also reassure that providers don't have much time to impress them when looking for APIs, because they will choose a maximum 1 to 3 and reject those where they find friction right away. So altogether, we should definitely consider the user experience when designing portals. But in addition to that, we could also optimize their workflows to flow and consider maximizing the chance that they get into flow by eliminating distractions, for example, because if we disrupt the flow, we disrupt their productivity. And we could also optimize their workflow to flow by using practices that streamline productivity, like providing instant feedback that reassures them that they're doing things right, and by providing gamification elements that give a fun factor to it all, by giving rewards to developers and allowing competition and cooperation between them. And now Nor is going to guide you to some practical examples to see how UX design can foster peak performance on developer portals.
Thank you very much, Moni. Okay, so let's have a look at the usual developer journey when using APIs and therefore API documentation portals. The usual developer journey begins with the discovery step, and then users go to the evaluate step when they make a decision about which product or API they want to use. Next, in the learn phase, they learn everything about the API from the documentation itself. They go then to the tryout when they can get real code examples and they can make experiments with the API and test them. Then lastly, in the build step, they can integrate the API to their project. So there's a lot of coding and troubleshooting in this step. So this journey, as you can see here, can be linear in case of so-called systematic learners, who usually tend to learn first and then try out and then build. But actually, this journey can be non-linear as well, since opportunistic learners jump straight to try out after the evaluate step, and then they go back to the documentation to learn something if they do not understand something, and then go back to the tryout step. So they basically work with a trial and error approach. If you would like to read more about these learning styles, there's an article on pronovix.com written by one of my dear colleagues. I think the link will be in the chat messages, but reach out if you cannot find it. So the developer journey can be different depending on the learning approach of the developer, but there are some touch points with the DevPortal in every step of this journey that you can take into consideration when designing for Flow. And during our interviews, we asked developers about when they usually experience Flow during this whole developer journey. And it turned out that learn, try out, and build steps have the highest chance for experiencing Flow. In the next few slides, I'm going to focus on these 3 steps, and I'm going to show you some examples of how to make sure that these Flow experiences actually happen. We gathered the examples from this year's DevPortal Awards nominees. So here we are in the learn phase, where there's a pretty high chance for Flow. In order to define what solutions boost the Flow experience, we need to understand the user needs in every step. So here the typical user needs are to learn quickly and effectively, remember the basic concepts, and user might want to skip parts of the documentation that they are already familiar with. From a user experience perspective, interactivity and consistency can really boost the Flow experience of a developer when reading through guides and documentation. An example from Miro Developer Platform shows how instant feedback and the sense of progress can involve users more easily when reading the guides. So each guide page have a progress indicator at the top and the time to complete information. And also when users read the part of the documentation, they can mark this section as completed and proceed to the next one. This is something that can give the sense of achievement and sense of progress for the users. Also, this layout is consistent throughout the whole guide section of the platform, and this also enables users to experience a sense of control, which is an important element of Flow. Inclusive design is something that is a must these days. We talk about it a lot. And most people think about accessibility, color contrast, or screen readers in this case, but I think taking into account developers with diverse skill sets is also really important. For example, here on the React.dev portal, we can see some so-called deep dive sections, which the users can expand and read more details about a certain topic. So this way, for example, more seniors who have the skill set can deep dive into these sections, or even they can decide to skip it, which enables them, for example, to stay in Flow. And others with other skill sets can read it through all to have the whole picture, or they can also skip it. So there's a decision for the users to skip parts of the documentation. Okay, so in the tryout phase, when users are already working with the code, they see some examples, they really want to know how it really works. They want to understand how they can integrate this solution to their project. In case of tryout, of course, AI solutions can help a lot, since they give immediate feedback via this question-answer format that we have here. Code@Docs has a cool AI functionality under the name of Code Chat, where users can ask questions or even give orders to write a sample code, for example. And when asking a questions, users usually have a clear goal, a clear question in their mind, which is also a prerequisite of Flow to have a clear goal. And by getting answers quickly, they can solve problems more easily, overcome these problems, these questions, and consequently, there's a higher chance for them to get into flow state. Using these AI tools also have the cool factor, the fun factor, which is also a really important thing in Flow. Spotify for developers has a great tryout option as well. They decided to have the tryout function right on the homepage, which enables users at the beginning of the developer journey to jump to the tryout. This actually takes into consideration those developers that have an opportunistic approach when learning. Also, they provide a real example as the result of the tryout. So if users connect their own Spotify account to this Spotify for Developers platform, as a result, they can get, for example, their top 5 tracks from the last 30 days. This real example also enables them to understand the concept right, and then consequently get into flow. So in the last step, which is actually the build step, users really want to work effectively without any interruptions or minimal interruptions. It's also important that in case of troubleshooting, they want to find solutions to their problems. In this step, Miro Developer Platform provides the fun element, again, for the flow experience by adding gamification elements. In this particular example, badges can be earned in particular steps of the integration. This gives the users the immediate reward, the immediate feedback that they are on the right track, and the experience can also be fun and engaging. On Mapbox Docs, we can see a great practice for enabling live communication. Nowadays, many portals have Discord or other community interfaces when users can collaborate with each other and help each other. And actually, this is something that was also highlighted by our interview participants many times, that they seek for these opportunities and they really like using these platforms. So in the troubleshoot section of Mapbox Docs, we can see clear entry points to this option, as well as the Ask AI. This is also available from the troubleshoot page. So engaging in live communication and having this question-answer format is also an important thing in this step as well. On the developer portal of ABN AMRO, we can see some good examples for how to incorporate use cases to the support options of the portal. So here, users need quick and easy support in case of troubleshooting, and sometimes they want to reach out to the support team of the portal, of the provider. And making these different use cases helps users to navigate on the support page based on their progress in their integration or based on their preferences. So this is definitely a step which supports users in not to get out of flow, so to stay in flow, by providing clear entry points from their point of view. Okay, and as a summary, I would like to give you some do's and don'ts, some things to aim for and some things to avoid when designing for flow. Interactive journeys are tools you can definitely incorporate into your portal. Also, giving results as soon as possible after the user enters the portal. As mentioned, gamification elements can also have a significant role in the fun aspect. Inclusive design is also something to aim for, taking into account the skill sets of the developers. So on the don't side, there's this complex long descriptions. That is something you might avoid. And the lack of feedback about the progress is also something to avoid, because feedback gives the users the reassurance that they are on the right track. Inconsistent user flows and design elements take away the control from the users, and so you should always aim for consistency in this regard as well. So with keeping these in mind, I think you can take your user experience to a whole new level when designing for flow. And if you can be successful in this, you can give developers the rewarding experience of flow. I think this is a personal experience, which is really powerful, which can result in having more trust for the provider, and in the future, probably seeking for these opportunities more often. And last but not least, as a disclaimer, I would like to talk about the importance of user needs. So these are the best practices that I have shown you. These are really useful, but they will not necessarily work on your portal. They will not necessarily work on your users, on your audience. So always get to know them, always get to know their needs, their real needs. User journey mapping can be a great tool for this, to understand the user needs, taking into consideration different kind of personas. And also there's this data-driven design that I would like to highlight. If you can always make decisions based on some kind of data, this data can be user interviews, usability tests, or analytics. We know that is definitely a challenge, but here in Pronovix, we really believe in the importance of user research. Actually, next week we will be in Paris for the API Days conference. So if you happen to be there and want to talk about these topics, you can reach out to us. And lastly, always ask yourself why when designing for flow, as Backstreet Boys and 4-year-olds often ask to. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Monica and Nori, for this great presentation. This time, we will not do a Q&A, but I'm sure Monica and Nori will answer to your questions in the chat if you have submitted questions. And as Nori mentioned, they will be at API Days Paris next week. If you have the chance to travel there, make sure you check out the API the Docs conference track in the program. We're going to have panel discussions and jurors from the DevPortal Awards and nominees from the DevPortal Awards will be on stage, and they're going to chat about their challenges and developer portal journeys. All right, thank you, girls. Now let's continue the program. I'm going to share my screen again. Just a second. I hope it's out there now. Okay. Today, we are going to announce the finalists and award winners in 5 nomination categories, as well as the recipients of the Best Overall Awards. We hope to have a representative of each award winner team on the virtual stage, so fingers crossed everyone is here. My colleagues will help and invite someone from the winning teams to join us on the stage, and if you get a prompt, all you need to do is accept it and turn on your video and microphone. Apart from the official category descriptions published on the DevPortal Awards.org site, the messages that we will read out today about the finalists and the winners are from the jurors. Okay, and here is the first category, Best Accessible Developer Portal. Having a developer portal with a strong accessibility is not a nice to have anymore. It allows people with disabilities to access information unhindered, enhances overall user experience, widens the reach of potential users, and it also strengthens brand loyalty. We are very happy that we receive more and more submissions in this category each year. In 2023, 8 teams decided to get evaluated. We strongly encourage everyone to consider this category next year and to help improve and excel in web or digital accessibility. Now, I'm inviting juror Susanna Lauren to the virtual stage to share her insights about the do's and the don'ts. And I also invite Laura Vash to the stage, who is going to do the interview with Susanna. Susanna leads the EU initiative of the International Association of Accessibility Professionals. All right, so here you go. Laura, Susanna, the stage is yours.
Hi, Susanna, and welcome. Welcome. I'm very happy that you could make it, and actually incredibly honored. Can I ask that you, give a short list of all the titles that you hold and how much influence you have on the shaping of at least the EU initiatives in accessibility?
So no, I am. So thank you for having me, and thanks for the introduction. I have been working in accessibility for quite a few years. I usually call myself one of the dinosaurs. So we need more young people to work on accessibility. But I do have a little bit of background, and I am currently doing the most difficult thing that I've ever done in my whole career. That is herding the cats of the standardization organizations in Europe. So we have the Accessibility Act, the European Accessibility Act, coming up in 2025. And the European legislation on accessibility works so that the law tells you who is going to be accessible and what is going to be accessible, but the real how is always kind of the technical specifications or the minimum requirements, if you will, is always produced in a standard. So I've been working on the EN 301549, which is a super long name of the kind of, I think what is nowadays the most worldwide spread accessibility standard for ICT products and services. And that is now acting as the presumed conformance for the Web Accessibility Directive. And now we are mandated by the European Commission to gather all the standardization organizations and work together on updating that standard so that it meets the requirements of the Accessibility Act. And we are currently updating 3 existing standards, developing 3 new standards, and also updating 2 technical reports. So we have a little bit to do. But so that is my standardization hat. I'm also leading the International Association of Accessibility Professionals, so a member organization, a not-profit member organization that is a global organization with 5,000 members across the globe. I think we have more than 100 countries represented now. So I'm leading the EU part of that organization. The headquarters is in the US, but we think that the EU has an important stake, of course, in this. And then my kind of day job is that I'm doing research on accessibility. So I've been working closely with the European Commission and also many end user organizations, because my background is really in kind of the close connection to end users. So that's somewhere there in the middle. That's where I am.
Thank you very much. And I guess now, when I said we are extremely honored and very, very grateful that you're embracing the award, I think it gets more depth to it in that you took the time to look through these developer portals so that you can help us with direct guidance on what are the practices that you saw, and what would you say were positive surprises without mentioning names? So we cannot give away at who won the award.
So I did not really know what to expect because I haven't seen anything like this before. So I mean, firstly, I was very happy that there was a specific prize category on accessibility in this kind of on the topic of developer portals. So that was interesting to me. And then the nominees were all over the place, very different. So a little bit tricky to kind of compare. But what I saw was that some of them had a real commitment to accessibility, writing about the way they work with accessibility and really trying to explain how they do this and all of that. And you could see that they had some kind of checklist on what they do, while others had, picked bits and pieces where they thought it would be, this is a good practice and we would like to show this. So it was interesting to look at. And I've done many juror sessions before, but this was the most, I think to me, most interesting because the objects, as I was looking at, they were so different, and really their approach to accessibility differed a lot from each other. So I was surprised about all the kind of the different angles or perspectives of how the teams have been approaching accessibility. So that was really interesting, I think.
Mm-hmm. And also, well, you put that very diplomatically, but we had some back and forths because usually, in my understanding, accessibility audits are more looking for what's done not so well or more punitive, whereas the awards is very, very strongly trying to be only appreciative. And this was a hard challenge for you to turn the usual way of looking at this completely around. Thank you for going with that ride with us.
Yeah, I think it comes from the US being in for many years kind of the place to look for accessibility legislation and other things, because the US have been doing this for a long time, and their kind of the idea of accessibility is really about avoiding lawsuits, which means that people get a little bit afraid of making mistakes. So that is, and that means looking for mistakes is kind of the essence of what many of the accessibility experts are doing in the US, unfortunately. And I think what we do better, if you will, in the EU, and what we have always tried to do is to really look at accessibility not as something you cannot do this and you must not do that and that is forbidden and blah, blah, blah. It's kind of, We don't want to be the police. We want to encourage people to do good things. Because during my 25 years in this industry, I have still not met anyone who jumps out of bed in the morning and say, oh, today I'm not going to break the law. I do not think that's the driver. I think the driver is try to make your portal, developer portal, or whatever interface you have, as good as possible for as many as possible, maximizing the foreseeable use of what you're doing and making it good design. I mean, that should be, I think, and we just need to add a couple of kind of criteria to that to make it accessible. But just saying you can't do this, you shouldn't do that is kind of, it becomes so boring. And I really think we need to turn that whole thing around. And that's why I really like the award idea, because then you push for the positive things instead of kind of fighting the bad things. So keep doing that.
Mm-hmm. Let me turn that around though. Have you seen common practices that you regularly see that are not traditionally viewed as a problem, but you would consider them such?
So yes, the international and EU standards on accessibility, they are really minimum requirements. And I usually say that if you follow either the WCAG requirements or the EN requirements, the only thing you do is to ensure that it's equally bad for everyone. It's very democratic, but it's not a very good goal to have. So the standard is a tool, but if you really want to make your interface useful, then you need to go beyond the standard. And I think some of these portals use very clever things that we in the accessibility world usually call multimodality. So when you use more than one format or more than one channel, so adding text, illustrations, videos, different ways of communicating the same information or the same content. That is, to me, kind of the essence of accessibility, but that is not written in any legislation or any standard. It's just a better way to do things because, surprise, people are different. Some people are really good at logos and branding, and they can, they remember the design after 1 second, and then, but they may not be good readers. Other people like me, I'm kind of a text person, so I read well, but I have a bad eyesight, and still others are better in listening and so on. So it's just the diversity among people. And if you provide several different channels or different format in the way you provide your information, then chances are quite good that you will reach a broader audience. And I really saw some of the portals doing that in a very good way.
Mm-hmm. We saw some presentations when some of the nominees of the awards showcased their portal themselves, that they mentioned that to this day, it's a challenging task to align aesthetics and content in a way that it is inclusive to all audiences, no matter the disabilities. How do you have any advice to maintain the visual appeal while ensuring that the content is accessible?
I think that is one of the most common misunderstandings there are when it comes to accessibility. And I think it's because the first criteria in the WCAG standard, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, which is usually where people kind of start looking, the first one is about text alternatives. So that means if you have an image or an illustration or something that reveal meaning, because there are people who cannot see that, you need to have an alternative. You need to describe kind of the purpose of that image in text. And then my impression, I don't have any scientific proof of this, but I think people read that, and that in itself is so complicated, so then they kind of fall asleep. So then the other 200 pages that they should read, it doesn't really stick to them. So the problem becomes always, or the focus become on visually impaired people. I have a visual impairment myself, but the number of people who are 100% blind is very small. And we have much bigger trouble with people who are hard of hearing, who have motor impairments, who have cognitive impairments or dyslexia. I mean, there's so many other user groups. So just focusing on what can I do with a visual because there are people who are blind? That is turning the whole balance in a strange way. So if everything needs to be, if you only look at one user group that way, which is what is usually happening, then the risk is that you forget everything else. But 99% of your users will not be blind. So you need to do the visual appearance good, and you need to work with the visual user interface, the user experience, everything we heard your colleagues talk about. That is super important for all users, and even more for people who have difficult understanding, who may not be really tech savvy or have maybe a cognitive impairment and so on. That's even more important for them. And then we have this small group who doesn't see anything at all. And surprise, a good visual appearance and super cool colors and nice design, it doesn't bother them because they don't see it. So instead of thinking, oh, everything needs to be black and white and we can't use images because there are blind people, that's going in the wrong direction, I think, because then we should all kind of stop looking at things and just shut up the lights. And I mean, we have videos here. That is not a disturbance to people with disabilities as long as we explain whatever we show with text. If we tell them, if we would have been showing an image here, then of course we should explain what is on the image so that people who doesn't see the image get that information. But we shouldn't shut down the videos because that is good for so many others. So I think that is kind of a basic misunderstanding of what accessibility is. Good design is accessible design. And the visual design and the logic of the navigation, the way things are presented, the way objects are either in connection to each other or doesn't belong to each other, that is extremely important for accessibility for many, many people. And some of it needs to be translated into something that visually impaired people can also perceive. But otherwise, they just don't see it. And you need to be clear in your, in the text or the audio, whatever, the other channel and format that you describe this in. But the visual appearance doesn't make a problem for people who can't see it.
The multimodality. Thank you. I think I hope this was the type of thing that you cannot unhear once you heard. So, thank you for that. So you said, well, you think nobody wakes up deciding that they are not going to break the law that they, we have some peculiar countries in Europe, so I don't know. But let's say, what would you wish people who are in charge of developer portals would wake up Monday and think when it comes to inclusive design?
Two things. First of all, do consider people with disabilities as very good staff. They have knowledge in their bodies around accessibility that you cannot buy any other way. So hire a person with a disability. That's a very good thing to do, not only to be kind of a good person but it's a really, really clever thing to do. And there are many, for example, visually impaired developers who are super good. So I would say try to open your mind when you do recruitment, because that is really, sometimes employers feel, oh, that must be difficult and how can I do this? But make a try. Many of people with disabilities are outside of the workforce because of our prejudice. So open your mind to that. That would be my first Monday morning wish. And then the other is, of course, realize that people with disabilities are already developers and designers and working with IT. So they should also be able to use your developer portal. Do start somewhere, even if you can't reach kind of the 100% perfect award-winning portal, but everyone can do something. So try to, there are a lot of good free tools out there. The standards are free to use. W3C has videos that you can look at. All the standardization you don't need to earn, don't need to use a lot of money to do this. But the basics, you can learn the basics of accessibility and do kind of a stepwise approach. Try to make your portal a little bit better this year, and then in 6 months a little bit better, and kind of be proud of being a little bit more inclusive, so that you will open up the fantastic world of development to more people.
Thank you very much, Susanna. It was an honor. Also, I'm extremely, extremely honored personally to have spent even just minutes with you. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Lara. Thank you for having me.
I hope that all the things you said inspired many people and that the word will go far. And we have to see the finalists now. Yes. Let me announce the award if I can share my screen. Is my screen visible now?
Yes.
All right. So, finalists of the Best Accessible DevPortal category are the Nationwide Developer Portal and Spotify for Developers. And as the jury, in this very specific case, Susanna highlighted, the Nationwide Partner Portal team clearly has an ambition to be accessible. And this is particularly seen in the effort on visual feedback for keyboard users. Spotify for Developers is visually clear and technically solid, gives a technically solid interface where accessibility has been taken into account in the majority of instances. But before revealing the winner, we would like to announce a special call out for one portal. And it goes to Chase Developer Portal, because the demo pages are a very good example of the multimodality that Susanna was now talking about. They use a combination of illustrations, instructions, and code to communicate efficiently with users with a wide variety of abilities. And now the drum roll to reveal who has been chosen to receive the Best Accessible Developer Portal Award this year. Congratulations to Spotify for Developers. This portal, while we're waiting for the representative, this portal stood out because of its friendly and welcoming approach. Accessibility is sometimes treated as the poor cousin from the countryside. To avoid problems, designers tend to choose black and white, and developers go for traditional solutions. While Spotify for Developers portal does the opposite. The impression is playful, the color patterns joyful, and the design is making the most out of each interaction. The accessibility statement is much more than a list of requirements. It is clearly a mindset. And in the meantime, we have Sarah on the stage. Welcome and hello.
Hi, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You have shared with the Showcase series also, but so the portal has been revamped recently. And would you share some of the milestones or the needle holes through which the camel had to walk through? How did this go, and how is it supported at Spotify to have a portal like this?
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for acknowledging the work, and a big congratulations to everyone else who was nominated for this category. So late last year, around Q3, Q4, we decided we wanted to revamp the developer portal to more specifically match work that has been happening elsewhere on Spotify, particularly around issues to do with accessibility as well. We were using tools that were, or underlying technology that presented some problems, and while we attempted to improve accessibility from that viewpoint, in the end, it made more sense to bring the technology that powers everything on the portal up to speed. And so we set out to do work with multiple teams, the internal accessibility team, the Spotify for Developers team, and other technology teams to update the portal. And this work happened over a period of 6 months. And in that same time, we started to think about all the ways we were thinking about empathy-driven development. So all the ways that we wanted to make it possible to leave no one behind who was interested in accessing any of our resources and understanding how to build their first app or how to revamp the already existing and viral app with, hundreds or thousands of users. And so we started to dig more intently into accessibility and what it means to make apps accessible from that standpoint. We leaned really into the notion from the International Day for People with Disabilities from 2020. They had this theme that said not every disability is visible. And so we used that as a roadmap to think about what kinds of stakeholders we wanted to talk to early on, what kinds of tests we wanted to run with them well before launch, what kinds of things we were looking at. And so we mostly had thought about accessibility as relating to the common senses, so sight and hearing and touch and talking. But then based on this framework that the International Day for People with Disabilities presented in 2020, we started to think more holistically about, learning preferences and learning disabilities, and how to think about presenting technical content to people, no matter what background they were from, in a way that they will be able to glean information from it really quickly, so they wouldn't need to jump through extra hoops to get to their first app or to revamping an already existing app. So we also decided to write in tandem guidelines on how to include accessibility in thinking about the applications that people develop with our resources, even as we were updating our entire developer portal with accessibility at the heart of it, based on the principles of empathy-driven development. So a lot of this work has happened in the last year and a half, but there's been lots of conversations over the years that have led us to this point, and it's with big thanks to everyone's feedback over the years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Susanna, do you want to ask anything from Sarah?
Well, it could be maybe how closely you have worked with the end users with disabilities. Did you have testing teams, or how do you because I can see that you have that you have included them somehow, but it would be, I think, interesting to know how.
Yeah. So I mean, we are very lucky to have a wide scope of users internally at Spotify that we could glean from. So our fellow colleagues, so we reached out to people in different channels, and we said specifically what we were trying to achieve with this from an accessibility standpoint. One of our developers on the team is also blind, and he will test things, he will build things with this in mind. We got people to test for different learning preferences and learning styles as we went along. We learned as well that beyond leaning on people who were having this first-hand experience, it was important for us to also step up and learn about, accessibility best practices. So there was a time when, for I think half a sprint or a sprint, like the team paused for a while and we dove deep into accessibility tutorials and made sure we were at a certain level, so we understood what it is we were looking for with every change, with every code review, what we would push back and request changes for, so that we were at a certain level. Externally, we used tools like makeitfable.com. So what they do is you would put out tasks about what it is you'd want someone to achieve using your website or your application, and then you ask them to test it for you, and they reach out to a community of users who use assistive technology in one way or another in their everyday lives. And these are the people who will test your application. They will record their screens, and they will let you know the places where things aren't working, or you're actually able to see them struggling, or use or navigate your system in a way different from how you intended it. And that was really eye-opening for us, because then we were able to say, wow, that's not how we anticipated that will go, and how can we make it better? So it's been an iterative process. We keep going back to it time and again, because technology changes so fast. So documentation and resources are constantly evolving, and therefore we keep checking in time and again to see what needs to be improved.
Let me congratulate once more and thank you. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how you up the ante after all this. It's an amazing portal, and congratulations to everyone who was part of making it.
Thank you very much. I'll share in the chat some of the links, particularly the ones where we wrote how to consider accessibility as you develop your applications using the APIs, the SDKs on our portal, because that's the place I think we would all benefit from thinking about. Most of our developer portals empower other developers to do their best work. But for most people who are doing this as hobbyists or as solo technologists on their projects, accessibility might not be top of mind for them. And we all can be accessibility advocates and help point them in the right direction. So help them win quickly. So what can they begin to do to make the things they build using the resources you give them a little more accessible, and how can they, celebrate progress and keep making progress, so it's not a one-off type of change, or it's not a big ambiguous ask so that they feel like they will bookmark it for later but never quite get to it. So that's the challenge I'd throw out to all of us to keep thinking about.
Congratulations. Thank you, Susanna, and thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing your experiences. I think that's extremely important. So the more the merrier. If we can share those experiences, more can learn and do good things. So thank you for that.
All right, thank you.
And I'm calling out the next category, Best API reference documentation. This category is so far the most popular one each year, which means that it's very hard to win here. Success in this category means that a user is experiencing no obstacles when integrating, finding extras to speed up their work, learning how to find support if needed, and figuring out how to maintain an API integration. These developer portals serve their audience well with an engaging design, reference topics, and being creative in making the API reference documentation journey easy and discoverable. The evaluation includes navigation, appearance, utility, how easy it is to use, and completeness. This year, we received 32 nominations. You can see them on this slide in the next one. When evaluating this category, the jurors agreed that they will consider it a deal breaker if the reference docs are not accessible with relative ease. Also, ones that do not have added features or real details on how to use the API were not ranked high. The jurors favored those reference docs which look nice, gave a good impression, have features like code side by side, examples, or getting started. And I have to announce a special call out for Spotify for developers for the following reason. The portal gives a real wow moment in the quick intro tutorial. You click to run the code sample, pre-populated with authorized access to your account, your non-developer everyday Spotify account, and see your top 5 songs. Which is a very nice touch. And then the quick intro builds on this. Those of you who are working with such know that the under the hood, this is pretty hard to wire through. So congratulations for this. And now let's see who can bring home an award in this category. Who's the winner? Congratulations. We are thrilled to announce that the winner of the Best API Reference Documentation Award in 2023 is React.dev. Combining clarity, strong examples, and a confident leading of the reader along most likely paths, this is both a great site to use and impressively slick. It teaches well and doesn't fall down by getting in the way. Snacks have been rounded off all along the user journey. Individual mentions could be made of the Get Started section with its nicely paced intro, interactive tutorial, and well-considered Thinking in React sections, of the well-laid out reference, covering use cases, troubleshooting, and clear demonstrations of various user interface elements, and the quality of the explanations. But it is the completeness of the package that puts React's portal ahead in a very strong field. And I'm calling Rachel Lina Bors to the virtual stage on behalf of the team. Rachel had a large share in the extensive work related to the reference docs. As far as I know, hi Rachel, you're not active anymore, but you were one of the major contributors to building this documentation set.
Yes, I had the honor of teaming up with the lead engineer and subject matter expert, Dan Abramov, who I don't think is in the audience today, but I do feel a good deal of the credit and praise should be shared with him, as well as the React community that helped build this. React is an open source project. I kicked off the project with Dan and later moved on after we went to beta to work on other DevPortal projects at other companies. But it is good to be here. And thank you so much. It's an honor to see this hard work being acknowledged.
Congratulations. If I may ask, what were your key objectives, if you remember, especially in the reference docs that contributed to creating the portal that we see today?
Absolutely. I do remember we started with a very firm idea that the learner should have a correct mental model of how React works. Many people in our vast open source community were focused on teaching React, but very few people were able to teach how to think in React the way the core team understood it. So the goal was to teach the world to think in React, to focus on building those correct mental models. It's a little bit different from other libraries that you might be familiar with. For instance, we have a hook-based a hook-based API, if you will, which is function-based. So documenting it posed some challenges. We wanted to explain the shapes of these hooks. So the real challenge there was explaining to people not just what they could do, but also how they looked and felt, and you could use them in production. And lastly, we wanted to focus on the interactivity of the code. People really grokked React when they were out there in the field working on a real code base. And we wanted to get them out of setup land. So they would focus less on their boilerplate or getting their environment set up and more on what it would be like in the actual developer experience. And interactive code sections were key to that, just as we heard in the opening about keeping engineers in flow. We built the entire documentation around that one concept that people would learn by spaced repetition. And to do that, we would provide interactive sandbox there in the docs.
Mm-hmm. How challenging was it to prioritize along the way? What was your approach to this?
I think we had a pretty straight shot. I think we had one of the easier prioritizings of any project I've been on, because the chief challenge was to update how people thought about React. We focused on that linear learning path in the Learn section first. This created a strong foundation for a long career working with React, where people could begin at one end, work their way to the other, almost like a course, and come out with a very good working background with React, almost the same as though they had teamed up with one of our core engineers for the duration of their use of the docs. Working on this learning path also helped expose some of the challenges that we were facing with documenting some of the more complex and advanced hooks. The hooks references started secondarily, as how we explained them in the learning path did impact how we would share them. For some hooks, like those around useref, which is a form of, it actually presents a lot of caching challenges. Documenting the references also challenged the core engineers to think through some of these use cases and changed an approach to not just explaining how to use React, but also how React would grow in the future. And all along the way, we were making frequent touches with our community of not just people learning React, but people teaching React and people contributing to React in open source. So there was active feedback from the audience to make sure that the way we were explaining things was connecting with them and helping them forward. We even had some members contribute along the way. Sylvia Vargas was contributed to make sure that the examples were all internationally relevant, rather than using pop culture references like Star Wars or cute references like cats. We focused on using things that celebrated humanity's commonality, like poetry, art, cities, something that anyone anywhere could identify with. And we had other great community members like Maggie Appleton contribute things like a diagramming system. So it really was a labor of love, and we did bring in the community from the open source side of React to help push things over the edge and make the docs just that much more wonderful to use.
Congratulations to everyone who is and was a part of this project, and thank you for explaining how it came to be.
It was a pleasure. I have gotten such wonderful feedback when I've met people in the wild to talk about this, about how these docs have impacted their careers, their futures, their teams. It's really great to see this information, which can have such an impact on a person's future and career, democratized and now a part of the open source ecosystem.
Thank you, Rachel. And yeah, congratulations again. Next category, best findability of products in a dev portal. Developer portals are a key source of knowledge and documentation when it comes to leveraging and using technical products. With all that knowledge, it can be easy to create noise, which makes it difficult to find the product you need. In assessing the nominees for best findability of products, the jurors were looking for those developer portals which found a way to provide deep technical information without compromising the ease of navigation to finding the right product, considering technical and business users. The portals which impressed the judges the most provided a comprehensive ability to discover the right product, whether that be by search, product catalogs, use cases, or how they cater to different audiences. Let me show you the finalists. In this category, findability of products, finalists are Mercedes-Benz developers and the FactSet developer portal. The jurors liked the Mercedes-Benz portal for their strong findability of products across the whole portal. The site is very clean, and the product catalog does a great job of displaying the product suite. Not only is the filtering easy to understand, also it's very performant and allows for filtering based on payment packages. Inspiration pages also link nicely to specific APIs, alongside tailored content for developers and business audiences. FactSet provided a comprehensive experience to discovering and finding the right product for you. And let's see who is the winner in the category of best findability of products in a developer portal. Congratulations to the FactSet developer portal. Overall, FactSet Developer Portal provided a comprehensive experience to discovering and finding the right product for you. The jurors believe there is no one golden pathway to finding the right product. Users should have the option of multiple navigation paths to find the right outcome. FactSet embodied that really well with great extra features like connecting solution pages to specific APIs and recipes, along with calling out trending APIs and having a strong product catalog with filtering and searching. And I'm calling Veni Paladagu to the virtual stage. Veni is digital infrastructure and API manager at FactSet. Hi.
Hey, hi Laura, how are you?
Welcome and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm truly honored to accept this award on behalf of FactSet, and I thank the panel for recognizing us for this distinguished award. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank our CPO Christy, our CTO Kate, and our senior management Todd, Dave, George, Tom, and all of our incredible engineers, especially our incredible DevPortal team, for their hard work and dedication. I also thank all our internal API stakeholders, our marketing team, and everyone who contributed to this, our product DevPortal. And I'm very grateful to be recognized among such esteemed peers in the industry. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Amazing, amazing job. What focus areas and what key features contributed to improving the product discoverability?
Right. Yeah, at FactSet, we have a vast collection of APIs. So it has been crucial for us to ensure that users can easily find the right products with minimal friction. To achieve this, we developed the idea of showcasing the APIs in the context of larger solutions and workflows, making it easier for users to, navigate and discover the right products compared to them going through the entire catalog, where we have a huge list of APIs. In addition to this, we significantly invested in enhancing some core components like site search, better navigation, our user interface design, huge shout out to our UX team, and content optimization for search engines, our SEO scores. So I think our great preference was given thoroughly to understand, the business workflows or solutions that, best cater to our users, along with gaining insights into specific needs and pain points, which will enable us to tailor the API offerings in a better fashion. I guess these were some of the areas that we've considered as the best approaches that we could take. And like I said, the focus was majorly on helping our clients to navigate through the catalog and our products easily. I hope we achieved that.
Apparently. What would you recommend for teams who are relatively new in the DevPortal space, where it comes to reducing friction in finding the right products?
Right. Yes. Like I was mentioning, I think the preference would be greatly to understand what is your user base. Kind of conduct those user research that would be beneficial for you to kind of target those specific pain points and understand what product filters would be best suited for your APIs. And that will also enable you to tailor your API offerings to seamlessly integrate into your client's existing processes. And additionally, investing in a robust site search feature on your developer portal can greatly enhance the user experience, I think, which will also allow developers to easily locate the APIs that best suit their requirements.
Thank you, Vinny, and congratulations to the whole team.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
And we are on to the next category now, best onboarding, which category I think receives a lot of attention, both from nominees, but I guess just simply from the number of nominees, also any developer portal owner. We have heard in the first Gala event from our jurors that it is quite clear that inside and outside, beyond the DevPortal Awards, that the onboarding experience gets a lot more attention recently than it did in the beginning of building developer portals for REST APIs. Good onboarding is a developer portal. In a developer portal, get started with transparent steps to registration and granting access that show what the APIs are about, how they work, how developers can start integrating, and where they can find additional resources. It is important to give just the right amount of information, as this is the first impression your users experience. The message in between the lines is that if it's not the right amount of information, it's going to be the lost experience too. This year, there are 19 nominees in this category. Let me announce first a special call out from the jury, which is to the VM documentation developer portal. The special mention is for providing a robot that could be controlled by a new user within minutes. This is a great example of a low barrier to entry, and it can be very attractive to customers who want to try before they commit. Congratulations. And now the drum roll for the winner in the best onboarding category this year. It goes to Miro Developer Platform. Congratulations. I hope Mira is jumping up and down too right now. The winner for this year created a delightful experience for new developers on the platform. They went above and beyond with an onboarding flow that is clear, simple, and fun. The experience matches the Miro brand and sense of collaboration quite aptly. When first arriving at the portal, it offers a clear path to the initial tutorials. These tutorials are bite-sized in scope and require no local setup. There's a sandbox embedded in the tutorial page itself. The pre-written sample code can be executed with a single click, but it can also be modified, allowing experimentation with a rapid feedback loop. The platform tracks your individual progress as you complete each tutorial, including a tasteful celebratory animation. By completing tutorials, you can earn a series of badges recognizing your progress on the platform. Miro offers all the standard documentation and example apps that you would expect from a developer portal, then layers on an onboarding experience so pleasant and simple, it creates a desire to build on the platform, even if you're completely unfamiliar with the product. And I'm calling William Bishop to the virtual stage. William is a staff developer advocate at Miro. Hi, and congratulations.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Laura. Really honored to receive this recognition, especially amongst all the other, amazing nominees.
2 weeks ago, you accepted the award in the DX Innovation category, and now onboarding. These are two really important elements or aspects of a platform. What roles were involved in mapping out the strategy that eventually led to such an achievement?
Yeah, this was honestly a major cross-team, cross-functional effort amongst, our developer experience engineering team, our developer relations team for content recommendations, our technical writing team for making sure everything was, succinct, our product team generally for just making sure we were, being part of what the industry standard expects and actually trying to exceed that. So, we definitely feel humbled because, we're really proud of this kind of, strong foundation we've been, trying to build so far, despite the fact that actually we're quite a young developer platform. So, we're really playing the long game here. We're hoping that by setting up these solid foundations and putting a lot of, effort in upfront on truly trying to create these great experiences, that this work upfront is going to allow us to actually iterate and move this, portal forward even quicker and more efficiently in the coming years.
And what are you most excited about the coming years for the portal?
Yeah, honestly, I think this next year is going to be really exciting for people building on Miro. There's going to be a lot of opportunities to, change the way people collaborate and co-create, as we say, on a day-to-day basis. So, by getting up to speed quickly on our platform through our onboarding, through our docs, through all the experiences we've created in our portal, we're hoping that people can take advantage of this to actually not just build, apps and integrations, but build, livelihoods or businesses on our platform. And really, we want to make sure we're building a sustainable ecosystem that kind of fuels itself in the years to come.
I'm looking forward to following the journey further. It's been amazing.
Thanks so much. Yeah, it's a true pleasure.
And congratulations to the whole team. Let me call the next award category the Best Interface Developer Portal. Is a new category in 2023, so to speak. We merged the best dev portal beyond REST platforms, REST APIs, and the best dev portal for citizen developers. So these categories we merged based on the feedback we received from last year, because this is one of the things we strongly rely on the jurors for, to tell us how we are doing things badly. So we have merged it, and so was created the Best Interface Developer Portal category. And we're delighted to see that many teams decided to enter. Interface portals are external business developer portals that broker a cooperative and competitive value exchange between an organization and the communities they interact with. Where possible, they help developers to use technology assets that provide shortcuts around custom API integrations like SDK, apps, widgets, QR codes. From these 15 nominees, the jury selected one winner, which is, drumroll, the VTEX Developer Portal. Congratulations! VTEX impressed the jurors with their clean design. They packed in a lot of information without compromising white space. The site has many areas to explore, but does not feel cramped nor claustrophobic. They effectively use icons on the left overarching menu, guides, API reference, app development, to categorize site use cases. Search was a delight to use. This is especially important with so much information. VTEX delighted the jurors with the human touch. They appreciated the names and profile pictures of the contributors to each page via GitHub. The pencil icon on each page invites editors to contribute. And I'm waiting for Bruno Amu from the VTEX team. He's head of documentation to receive this virtual award. Hello, congratulations.
Hello. Thank you, Laura. I'm really happy to receive this recognition in the name of VTEX.
We see a number of products in the platform and assume a high flow of updates and other new things to document. How do you conquer the challenges that come with this scale, and how do you keep it so elegant?
Thank you for that. At VTEX, as we manage a platform with many products, right now we have about 70 different products in our platform. One of the biggest challenges when we tried to build a developer portal was the amount of different documents we have. In the developer portal right now, we have about 3,000 different documents, counting endpoint documentation and tutorial and guides. So the sheer scale made that the tools we were using weren't really working as we wanted, not only in terms of user experience, but also in terms of tech writer experience. The sheer amount of documents made updating things sluggish, and the using moving from one endpoint to the other endpoint, or from one page to the other page, was not a seamless experience. So one of the first things we wanted to do when we transitioned from best in class solution to our own solution, to a solution that we developed ourselves, was performance for the user that's clicking through and trying to explore our content, and also for the tech writer that has to keep everything maintained. So we launched the developer portal in this new version of the developer portal in the beginning of the year. And up to now, we have more than 3,000 different commits only on content, changing the text and images and diagrams. So we had to build a platform that uses some technologies that we also incentivize our clients to use on their stores, but some technologies that would enable this amount of content to be displayed with performance. And that was one of the greatest challenges. But also keeping a community that can keep it updated. We have a team of about 15 tech writers working with us right now, and they do the biggest part of the updates. But we constantly get feedbacks from our clients. We have about 2,000 different feedbacks every year. And we also have commits from the directly from the users altering content, and that way we can manage to keep the documentation updated and shown what the users really need.
Mm-hmm. The jurors mentioned that they were very impressed by the human touch, the community feel of the portal, and you also just mentioned that um, it's a bit hard to say so, but what do you think is like the secret intention or mindset, or actually tactical approaches? How do you increase or encourage community engagement?
We try to give the impression, to tell and show our users that we really care about their feedbacks. So each feedback that we get, we answer it. Like one tech writer will answer an email and thank them for their contribution, and ask for more explanations if they have any questions about the feedback that was given. And so I think that way we manage to make our clients really believe that when they give us feedback, when they talk to us about what they think should be better in our documentation, it will be taken into consideration. So uh, we have a continuous process internally so that all of our tech writers are directly talking with clients almost every day, if not through interviews, but through communication via feedback loops. Like we have feedback forms, we have different places where the users can give us relevant information, so we can keep it updated. So I think that it's really a two-way thing. Like our developers need our documentation, and they have interest in that it becomes better for them, as they it's our documentation is really a reference. There's so many documents that they can they don't only come to learn some concepts and then go and develop what they need. They are constantly using our documentation to remember the name of a field, or to get some specific information for the implementation they are needing. So I think we have a good feedback loop in our process that gets the community really engaged.
Thank you, Bruno, and congratulations again.
Thank you, Laura, and it's a great honor representing VTEX here.
And now, before we reveal the winners in the best overall category, I'd like to call jurors Anne Gentle, Michael Richardson, and Bob Watson to this virtual stage to share the experiences. I guess you noticed that we turned things around a little bit. Anne is here. Hi.
Hello.
Let me just stop sharing for a moment. Hi, Bob. Hi, Michael. Good to see you again.
Good afternoon. Yes. Nice to see you again.
And thank you for your trusting me to ask you questions that I'm not going to show you here.
Of course, Laura, always.
Michael is first time a juror, and Bob have been embracing the awards for years now. So we have a continuum of experiences here. Do you see certain aspects of developer portals? And I'm going to ask the same questions from the three of you as from the previous Gala, from the previous jurors, so that if somebody would like to see how different people with different background and different contexts see the same thing, then they get a more richer picture. So do you see certain aspects of developer portals coming more into focus as opposed to a couple of years ago? And if I may, I'm going to ask Anne first.
Alphabetical by first name. Why not? Sure.
That's because we're lady, by the way, but
right. I'd say if you look at a couple years, so I'm going to call a couple years 2 or so years ago, I think there's just better and better infrastructure for trying out APIs and better integrations into like authentication. So like with Spotify, with Miro, you could use your own account to try things out on the developer portal. Well, that's huge, all right? I had a song list in a couple clicks. It was amazing to see. So I think there's just better and better experiences that way because you know, the backends have caught up and there's many more cloud services you can get access to. And I just think, you know, even seeing, I believe it was it React that had a way where you didn't even have to log in and you could get things going. So that was really impressive as well. So I think that's the biggest thing in the last couple of years is just more push towards let them try it out, even if it's hard on the back end. Believe me, I know at Cisco, especially with our big portfolio of APIs, it's not easy to set up backend infrastructure, and it's not easy to make sure everything's, you know, secure enough and taking into consideration any bad actors, or, you know, you have to be very thoughtful and very, you know, just plan ahead and then maintain it over time and be ready to do that with the resources, you know.
How do you see this, Bob? You have been the patron saint of the DevPortal Awards from the very beginning, and this is also very of mine. What would we do without you? What have you seen that is more in focus recently?
So I think the thing that impressed me from the very beginning of the presentation is the incorporation of user experience research and design. That's something near and dear to my heart. But it's getting more and more into the mainstream of developer portals. I mean, it was always something for websites, but by golly, developer portals turn out to be websites too, and they could benefit from all the same user experience innovations. And so seeing that be applied to the entries into the contests over the competition year after year warms my heart. But it's that it's getting that recognition, and to see that become more and more mainstream as opposed to, you know, something they'll get to later or something that doesn't even enter into the conversation is something I've seen and something I hope to continue to see become more mainstream, getting the customer, you know, recognized as part of the design process of the developer portals.
Last year, Matthew said something like this too, like, "Oh my God, you did not invent people again. That actually there's people using them."
Like I said, that's near and dear to my heart. So the more I see it, the just the happier I get.
Thank you. Michael, you're new to the awards as a juror, but not new to developer portals. And you're also part of building the Kruger developer portal. What do you think is more in focus or more raised at the bar than before?
So I think I do defer to some extent to the others in the group who have more experience with this judging process, but I have to agree with both of them, and specifically calling out the sandbox, the ability to interact with an API of any kind directly in the documentation is so valuable and really contributes to that learning experience. So I think there's a lot of value there, and look forward to continuing to see more of that as time goes on.
Mm-hmm. It's becoming more of a sandbox in its original meaning, like you kind of can play there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
My favorite question, let me turn this around.
Awesome.
What would you like us to forget about? What would you like to not see in portals anymore? And Michael, since you had the mic.
That's I think some companies' confusion about their users, and they may end up with salesy material in a developer-focused portal. And I think that it's really valuable when building these kind of portals to consider your users and the kind of information that they're going to need based on their use case. So yes, there is absolutely a place for selling your product and getting people on board, but developers, and inside the developer portal, you're typically looking to get stuff done and try things out. So keeping a focus on that.
Anne, what do you think?
Yeah, I can go next. You saw me come off mute like, oh, I like this one too. I would love to leave behind this stark difference between the reference information and the how-to and conceptual information, where design-wise, it just looks totally different. Now, the entries this year are amazing and have done, the ones that can do that really well are going to stand out, where they thought about the journey, they thought about user goals. So I think it really ties into what Michael's saying. But at the same time, the thing I don't want to see is, here's Swagger UI, here's everything else, right? And I think, the times of that are over. And I think even vendors are starting, to realize the layouts matter and the journeys and navigations matter. Of course, search matters too, and you might pop in anywhere, but you don't want this, whiplash effect of this is very different, where am I? Yeah.
Bob, what doesn't cause joy to people on portals?
Well, I just to kind of pick up where Michael and Ann left off, the thing that I haven't liked to see in the past is the sort of cargo culting of, oh, they did it and they got a prize, so we'll copy their design. It's like, it's not the design you want to copy, it's the process that they went through to get to the design. And that's like what Michael was saying, in touch with the customers, being able to use it, keeping the design coherent. It's the process of knowing your users to know what they want, because your users are different from whatever company you want to emulate because they got the prize last year. know the process that they took to understand their users and how they design their site to meet their users' needs, and then design your site to meet your users' needs. That's the sites who did that in this year's competition unfortunately made it hard to judge because they were all really good. That was the problem we had, is like, okay, well, how do we pick from the best and the best when they're like literally neck and neck? So it's great to see more companies, organizations adopting, a good process that gives them good results. So if there's anything to take away, it's that people focus on the process, as the speakers at the very beginning talked about. I mean, I don't know if I think all of us here realize it, but that's literal gold mine of information for the secret to winning next year's competition.
Laura, you're muted. Laura.
Thank you for that. I was so much in the flow with listening to Bob. And so I'm asking you, Bob, first now. Was there like a surprising approach that you really didn't expect in either way? Like, huh, that's new.
I'll put me on the spot. Surprising approach. I think that I'm going to sound like a broken record at this point, but I think the surprising thing was to see the approach to a successful site repeated so frequently, because before it was the exception and it was easy to pick out the winners. It's like, oh, they've got it figured out, everyone else is still catching up, winner without a doubt. Now it's like, ooh, these all have figured it out. Like the Miro site, how their whole onboarding experience, that was one of my favorite ones. Just reflected the company, it made it fun, it drew you in, it showed you its capabilities, and it's like they get it. They know who they're talking to, and they know how to talk to them. And so seeing more of that, and that's becoming the norm now, I think is what surprised me. It's like, it's good to see that people are listening and picking up. So these competitions, I think, are starting to pay off. They're literally raising the bar of what's expected. And like I said in your presentation at the beginning, is giving away the secret to do that. And so I'm hoping to have an even harder time next time and picking a winner.
When we started the award, it was actually Christoph's dreams. This is the first award gala where Christoph Wantoma isn't here. He's my co-founder and husband, but that's another story. But it was his big dream that sounded impossible when we started this award. And I remember some frustration from you, Bob, also like, this could be done better. And apparently the promise with which we lured you in as a juror, that we are going to collectively raise the bar on excellence on portals, it's hopefully coming, and I hope that we made some contribution to that. Michael, was there something that you were really surprised by when you saw the nominees?
There was some gamification, which I thought was a nice little addition, which I didn't really expect. I don't think that's been. I think people have tried that over the years, and we're starting to see that come into its own, and I'm excited to see where that leads over time.
And
I remember two sort of, wow, they did that moments. One was Ring Central. We were evaluating them for the community outreach, and they have an award system. So it's in line with that gamification where you could gain points and then pick your own prize. So I loved it for just the playfulness of it. You could win a panda, a plush panda. So it was like Dave and Buster's in the United States where you get tickets and then you go pick out something on the rewards board, right? So I really liked that. That one was one of those moments where I went, oh wow, I never would have thought that there's a system that can do that now. So that was really fun. I shouldn't be surprised, but I was a little bit surprised when teams could mention that, oh, and we've run accessibility testing on our site. So what a testament to the more attention we can get on that, not just for risk mitigation, but to actually make a better, more accessible site for all. Accessibility is near and dear to me for a couple of reasons. One is I was accidentally blinded in one eye for many months through just a random thing that happened. So not that I ever got good with screen readers, that was really difficult, but it could happen to anybody. So I think that by making it better for a part of the population, we're making it better for all of us, right? So that was a delight. That was great to see people just noting, oh, we've run accessibility tests. You're on mute again.
Again, if you would take out your crystal ball, and I know I really shocked you with this question last year, but I love the answer, so let me ask this again. If you took out the crystal ball and try not to look only at AI, what would you think seeing in the future of DevPortals?
Well, mine's AI, so no.
Yeah, no.
I do have one that's related, but it's more about, and I don't think it's science fiction, I think it's science reality. If you're gonna make a large language model and use it in your, make your documentation your model, wouldn't it be great if you had already run all of that content through a linter or an Acrolinks, content governance system, or even just Grammarly, and I think that the key why this won't be science fiction any longer is, well, first of all, generative AI is amazing. But second of all, using your own LLM and then having confidence that the data is good, that you're not putting garbage in, that's where we know these things by heart. It's like ingrained in us that if it's not any good to start with, you need to get it to a good place, right? So I think Acrolinks has an API, Grammarly has an API. So it's on developers to make sure those integrations can be smooth and high quality. So that's what I would love to see. That's the kind of thing it is just around the corner, folks. We can do this.
Thank you. And Michael, what do you see in your crystal ball?
I think that developer portals are becoming more varied and trying new things. So I see a lot of experimentation and creativity coming in the future with various companies trying to create differentiation and using those user experiences to say, well, what if it doesn't have to look the way it's always looked? How can we completely reimagine the way that we are creating developer experience? So, in truth, that means I don't know, but I'm excited to see stuff that looks very original.
If I can, I think one that I remember seeing that was very original to me was, instead of using git put post delete, just using the first two letters in the table of contents. So it was GEPUPO. Blew my mind. I had never even thought to do that. And it looked like I love chemistry, and I think the table of contents is really, or the periodic table is really interesting. So it looked like periodic table style, very science driven. That was interesting. Like, who thought of that? I want to know you. Yeah.
So, Michael, if you're going to be a returning juror, be careful what you wish for, because you might have to compare some very original sites next year.
Excellent.
This is going to be interesting to see new things. Bob, let me ask you to round up our interview. What do you think may happen to DevPortals in the future, and what do you wish would happen to DevPortals in the future?
I hope we see more of them. I think that's exposing, that's acknowledging API as a product and treating it as such, and I think everyone benefits from that. The one thing that I'd like to see them incorporate, and this kind of speaks to what Anne and Richard were talking, or Michael was talking about, was the getting feedback back to the writers and developers. Right now, it's the getting data back from how people are using it and how, what they're looking for, and what helps them. The level of data that you can collect from a developer portal is still, I'd say, an untapped goldmine of information, and being able to collect that information and present that in usable formats is an opportunity that'll help, support the ideas of, getting the AI to do the right thing. You need feedback for that, and getting the design. If you're going to try out a design idea, you need feedback from that. The better feedback, the sooner, the more you can iterate on your design, the more you can improve it. And so I think we still haven't crossed that last bridge to tie this all together and taking them to the next level. But it's going to be exciting to see where that next level is. Like Michael was saying, I don't know what that looks like either, and I've been studying this for 20 years. But I know that once we get all the right pieces in place, amazing things are going to happen. So I'm still literally on the edge of my seat, watching how that's going to turn out.
Thank you very, very much for this interview and for sharing your opinions. I recently had the experience to be on the other side of the microphone, and now I know, not just know, but I felt it. What a vulnerable position this is to be in, and how brave you got to be to actually share the more extreme ideas and crystal balling into the future. So I very, very much thank you for bringing all your experience, knowledge, and energy into this program.
Thank you, Laura. It's been an honor, and you've been a great host and leader the whole time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks so much.
I have seen, yes?
Thank you. I couldn't get my button fast enough.
And I have seen some mentions of my name in the chat in the meantime. I would like to thank people for that. It's actually feels really good to have somebody tell that I'm not the biggest idiot in the room here. And because we are now about to give out the best overall awards for small and medium enterprise and enterprise companies, I'm going to steal the spotlight for a moment before that, while you're on the edge of your seats. And I would like to thank my colleagues, because you see me here on the camera, but my colleagues, Katalin, Rebecca, Claudia, Zoli, and Sabina, and Christoph Antoma, who's gently guiding us to keep our faith in the background, and then my colleagues who enable all of this, all of the jurors, all of the nominees. I would like to thank you for trusting in the process of collectively creating something for no immediate return. So thank you for that. And I'm happy that you trust me to be the voice here, but I'm just the voice. And now the drum roll for what makes a developer portal truly exceptional in 2023. Delivering a caliber of, I forgot to share my screen. I hope you can see it. Truly exceptional portals deliver a caliber of developer experience that we only dreamed of just a few years ago. This year, much effort we have seen, including a tremendous amount of complex work behind the scenes going into onboarding experiences and an ever-shortening time to wow. It is also clearly visible on a portal when a lot of investment goes into the work of technical writing and into embracing communities. Investment in technical writing and community building make a huge impact in helping a portal stand out from the pack. So let us see who is the winner in the small and medium enterprise category. I am very honored to announce that the Best Overall SME Developer Portal Award goes to Beyond Documentation Developer Portal. Congratulations. It is nice to see a hardware product developer portal among the nominees. The jurors particularly like the aesthetics of this site. In the words of one juror, it reminds me of my early days of programming in the 90s, of terminals where everything was all about the information. It's not just about being flashy, but more about presentation. The portal is spotlighted as super fun. It is a great wow factor for a developer to be able to make a remote robot move in a few minutes. In a world dominated by pure software products, it's unique and refreshing to encounter a developer portal bridging the gap to robotics. It's one thing to change a few pixels on the screen or a value in some database. It's another thing entirely to use software to interact with the physical world. The ability to remotely control a robot within minutes of signing up is undeniably cool. And I'm calling Naomi Pentrell from VM to the virtual stage. Naomi is the head of developer content at VM. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much. There were so many very good docs portals nominated. I'm stunned. It is a great honor. Thank you so much. Yeah, the team has worked super hard since the launch of these docs, and yeah, it's super lovely to see that work celebrated.
And welcome back to the stage, because the portal also won the Best Visual Design category award.
Yeah.
And was also especially called out in the Best Onboarding Experience. Receiving the Best Overall Award in the SME category, it must be mind-blowing. And how do you feel? And can you tell us what the plans are for 2024?
I mean, I am just super happy. We've still got a lot planned for next year. We're not at the end. There's so many more like small usability improvements and things we want to fix. But yeah, a year ago when we these docs looked extremely different, and the team has worked so hard doing user research, working, like taking in any feedback that people give us on the page or just verbally or anything, and then like changing the docs to make sure if anyone like has a problem, we address it right away, and then just building in little fun elements. And I think we want to do more of that. I would love to see some more interactivity, like what some of the other docs portals are doing. See whether that try VM experience that got the special call out for onboarding, whether we can bring that even closer to the documentation. So I think there's a lot to do, but it's already come a long way, and I'm super happy with the docs, super happy with the team. Congrats to the whole team and to everyone at the company who's helped, because obviously that's a very, very big team effort that goes further than just the developer content team.
Congratulations. I can attest to it that the portal was an absolute favorite among the jurors. And I have the honor to also announce the other DevPortal Award. This year, the jury panel had a very hard time selecting the winner in the enterprise category. There were several great entries, and it was very difficult to narrow down the finalists. After a lot of deliberation and consideration, the jury panel selected one winner, and for the first time in the DevPortal Awards history, we are going to also have a special call out for this category. So let's see who got a special call out is the best enterprise developer portal in 2023 and who got the award. Special call out to the Miro Developer Platform team. The Miro Developer Platform executes on a very high difficulty score with a great design and an outstanding developer experience component. After onboarding, the user immediately gets the in the workspace experience, see the SaaS tool in action on one of their own boards. This embedded interactive experience, which we believe was technically very hard to pull off, was done brilliantly. The tutorials offer excellent gamification, creating a fun, rewarding experience that builds on itself. It is also very nice to see the team's commitment to their Myroneer community. It is a holistic proposition with changelog, roadmap, testing out features, going way beyond the basics. Congratulations and well done. And let me show you who won the Best Overall Enterprise Developer Portal Award in 2023. It's React.dev. The jury wants to put additional emphasis on the following aspects: the cleanness and ease of navigation, of finding information. The portal shows the result of good and hard to make decisions on what to present to developers and what to leave out. The portal has no login, which of course comes with the territory of the React framework being documented. Nevertheless, the jury wants to celebrate how this instant access contributes to the ease of use. The Learn section being part of the top menu, where new users can get to Hello World examples and then build upon that. The makers did a tremendous job in tailoring to audiences at different starting points, breaking down the barriers to early success. There is a great code sandbox. The writers carefully considered the audience when choosing what to include and what not to. They kept the pages coherent and made the deep dives optional. The portal has very good substance and is built in a way that it is also easy for artificial intelligence to consume. Most importantly, the jury's choice to award the Best Enterprise Developer Portal Award to 2023 to the React.dev portal is because beyond all these very nice aspects, the content is technically so very well written. The jury commented on how the level of technical writing craftsmanship carried this portal to the leading edge, and they would like to see more of such excellent writing in the future. Technical writing is a craft that should be taken seriously. And I'm inviting Rachel Nabors again from the makers of React.dev onto the stage. I don't know if Rachel is still here, and I have seen Dan also. If
Dan is here.
Yeah, Dan, maybe if you want to come on stage, you only have to turn your mic and your cam on, and this should work, if you want to.
Here he comes. Almost. I imagine there's a browser issue.
In the meanwhile, congratulations.
There we go.
And welcome back to the stage, Rachel. The portal also won the Best New DX Innovation and now the Best API Reference Documentation category award, and also especially called out in the Best Visual Design category. And that's, wow, what an achievement. You must be super proud.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen all these amazing developer portals that were in the running? This is, I'm flabbergasted. I don't know about you, Dan.
Yeah, I'm I'm glad to hear you liked it.
What are the 3 things that you would recommend to teams who are at the beginning of their DevPortal journey? What 3 things should they focus on?
Well, I have a couple in mind. Dan, I'm going to give a few and then you want to go? Definitely start with the learner. It's easy to make assumptions about what people know or how they think, but when you actually contact them early and often, you're going to be surprised about which of your assumptions are on and off base. Learners are always surprising you, and I think it's great to start with a a focus on the people you're teaching and all the different backgrounds that they might have, and to challenge your assumptions about them. And then, segueing to Dan here, team up with engineers. It's their knowledge that or the product people, if you're working on a more product-based thing like Miro, team up with the people whose knowledge you're trying to transmit into the learner's brain. There's really no better fount of information to create this sort of human API between the people at the core of the project and the people who need access to their knowledge.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to this. I think like it's important to look at both sides, because it's interesting that we've definitely received a lot of valuable feedback from early readers, but also I was surprised how much of pretty formative feedback was actually from the kind of technical side of like people who worked on these APIs and that we needed to document. So it was interesting that you kind of need to hear both perspectives and try to get them aligned and try to get something that actually answers the things that people wanted to see documented.
All right. Thank you very much. And congratulations to this big award. And thank you for pushing through with the nomination, Rachel.
I'm hoping maybe next year there'll be a special category for all the other amazing open source documentation projects that have been launching dev portals of their own in the past year or two. Can't wait.
This is the second time I hear this recommendation and within a month, and we are definitely thinking about rethinking the categories a bit because it's clear that the bar has raised, the edge has moved. So we're going to probably open towards less visible aspects also. But this is for the future. We still have to get together and see what we can bring into the awards. Thank you again. Thank you, Rachel and Dan, for coming onto this stage, and congratulations to everyone who's behind the making of this portal. And let me say this again. I would like us to celebrate all of the nominees for a lot of thoughtfulness, more hard work and creativity and everything else that goes into creating these portals, and the courage and the determination to go through the nomination, which is not that straightforward because we ask a lot of information so that the jurors can see what you want them to see. And I would like to thank again the whole organizing team. A lot goes into the program from January until the end of December. So I thank everybody who was contributing to this program in any way, big or small. A special shout out goes to my colleagues, Rebecca, Claudia, and Katalin, and all of the jurors, of course. And I hope that we are doing our best work with the DevPortal Awards as well to help making developer portals better and more successful. And before you quickly run away to the next thing you have to do, let me to two things. One is the roundtables, which is going to be after we close the presentation mode here, where you can talk with all of the participants who are still here in a sort of spatial sound setup. So only the people who are sitting at the table can hear you. And also about the next event that we are planning for next year. It is going to be the next API the Docs conference. It's going to be virtual, and we are going to be focusing on artificial intelligence practices in API documentation. Well, let me spare you the usual that it's everywhere, transforming everything. We would like to discover this together with a both strategic and tactical mindset. What key trends are shaping in API documentation through practical examples, and also explore how organization can adapt to stay at the forefront of innovation. We have 3 core areas for topics, and we are also calling for speakers. 1, how to improve AI readiness within the organization, and that is how to adapt and improve API management strategy and data safety, compliance, API design. 2, the tools in practice. For example, bring us examples where AI excels or fails. 3, new dimensions in API documentations with generative AI. The call for speakers is open in December, which is just around in 2 days. If you would be interested in presenting or sponsoring, please get in touch and we will be happy to discuss the details. The easiest way at this point is to send an email to info@api.docs.org. My colleagues are also going to put this into the chat, please. And I would like to invite you to API Days in Paris, which is the flagship API Days event. And API the Docs traditionally hosts a track there focused on documentation, technical writing, developer experience, and those of us part of the strategic part of all of this as well. We are also going to be welcoming panelists from the awards jury and the awards participants this year. As Pronovix is a long-time partner of API Days Paris, you're going to see us there as well. And if you want to keep learning more about API docs and dev portals, we're at your service with our usual resources. Let me show the next slide. I'm co-editor of the DevPortal's newsletter, which brings a little bit more opinionated resources on how to build, how to maintain, how to populate, and how to just generally create excellent DevPortals. The API's Resilience podcast is a longer, a bit more meandering podcast where Christophe Vantome is the host, and he interviews his guests with a more strategic, more complex big game state of mind. The API the Docs podcast is in my trust, and I'm asking guests about their practical approaches, their practices, their learnings, their hands-on experiences, and also their, let's call it career pathways, because I think I like hearing about how people got there where they are now and why are they doing what they're doing. And if you are looking for free webinars on strategy, user experience, and technical writing about developer portals, please visit pronovix.com/developer portal webinars, or just go to pronovix.com and then you're going to find this. And with this, we are concluding the event on the stage for the DevPortal Awards Gala in 2023. Please stay in the hallway track if you would like to talk with the winners or the jurors or with each other. And I thank everybody who was following this event. And I hope that maybe you can come to Paris and recommend all of the things that you have learned to other people. Thank you very much. See you next year and bye-bye.